need you to do Wi-Fi things on this.
Wi-Fi things
so
on that?
So I can get
Wi-Fi.
my notes because
you got to get the Wi-Fi.
my phone's all the way up there.
Okay,
I don't know if we've activated it on this or not. I'm still booting.
Oh, do you ever have a device that doesn't take 6 hours to open up?
Look, this thing hasn't been started in a while. Okay,
Tony,
so,
I feel like you buy technology and then put it away for a decade and then decide to use it.
I'm not saying that you're wrong. I mean, this still looks basically brand new, but I bought it like a few years ago.
Just so you know, technology ages approximately 7.5 to 8 years for every 1 year.
It's like dog years.
It is.
Yep.
It's very close to that, except sometimes more extreme because technological leaps just randomly hop like 12 years.
Yeah.
And not like dogs, unless they get like leukemia or something.
Well, see, this
Oh,
thing,
that's a sad feeling. I didn't want to think about dogs with cancer.
I have a Sony Vaio laptop,
already done
which is
Wi-Fi on
like
this.
it's like the Kia Sorento of laptops, and it got Windows 11 on it. And I think whenever I turn it on, it takes about 45 minutes for it to get to the "Hey, we're updating" screen.
well, see, this thing it works good after you let it get warmed up. I originally bought it for D&D, and then I did really bad things to it.
Oh,
So it just has to remember what it's like to be alive again.
Yeah.
And then, after using it for a little bit,
Tiny,
next time it won't be that bad.
do you buy technology and just use it as intended? I feel like everything you have runs a different thing than it came with.
This is the original operating system.
Okay.
I just had a bunch of D&D stuff installed on there.
Because whenever you brought the Linux thing in here, I think I heard it gasping for air.
It
Well,
was
that's because that thing was probably like 14 years old, and it would take an hour to start up with the original operating system. So that was why I put Linux on it. Also, it gave me a reason to learn Linux.
Oh, so it only takes 45 minutes for it to start now instead of an hour.
Exactly.
Well, I think while Tiny's getting that pulled up, I'd like to let everybody know that's listening to us. We're going to be taking some video to go along with today's episode. So listen with us, as you always do, and maybe search our socials to be able to see some videos. That's also going to be on the Patreon. And one quick apology, just in case you guys and gals and non-gender proclamatory pronouns
Non-binary friends.
hear a humming. It's not coming from your car speakers. It's coming from the newly installed giant air conditioner unit that I put in the grape sack because we some warm boys and it got hot quick and I wasn't about to just suffer and I didn't want them to suffer. And also in our strip mall studio area here where we had to install our own other air conditioner, I'm also recording music and practicing music in this room. So it's what's that one Will Smith song? That's
Getting jiggy with it?
No, it's
getting
about
hot in here?
No, it's about summer, and it's summer, 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 summer. Hi, everyone. I'm Austin Shazam Pfeiffer.
I'm Otto. The pumpkins accidentally growing are starting to bloom. Cogdell.
And I'm Tiny.
And this is Nerd Through the Grapevine, the podcast where three best friends gather weekly to talk about our favorite parts of past, present, and future nerd culture. Today we coming at you with a newly installed air conditioner and a phone that is not on silent.
I think that was actually my tablet.
The robots.
They're
listening in.
I'd imagine so because they're controlling it all. We're going to talk about some simulation hypothesis today.
See, the reason that this is a topic today, I was sitting at my house after doing a day of work. My sister calls me. Well, she texts me first. She's like, "Are you up?" And I'm like, "Yeah, pretty much always." And then she calls me and she's like, "Look, I know like cicadas are out there because I hear them, but I also hear this really loud humming, and it sounds like machinery, and I'm starting to think that we're in like a Matrix situation." Well, My sister has recently dipped her toe into the conspiracy theory pool.
Oh, poor girl.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
like, because she'll come at me with stuff like, have you heard of Pizzagate? And I'm like, Becky, that was like...
That was
it was like
2016.
a million years ago, yes.
In the internet world, that was.
Exactly. And I'm like, we've moved past that one. But she's like, okay. She's like, do you hear a humming outside? And I'm like, well, depending on where I'm at, I said, that's thousands of cicadas, because she lives in like a wooded area
Yeah.
where I don't. But, we still have them.
Mm-hmm.
But I was out on a delivery, and then I heard them, and I'm like, it makes sense. That's what that is, And she was like, I don't know. I'm starting to feel like we're in like a video game or something. She didn't quite have the words to describe simulation theory, but she kind of hit some of the points on it. And I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
Does she do gardening?
No.
Oh.
And so the thing that makes me most think of like the simulation hypothesis is like, what if I was incorrect when I had to, as a sheriff's deputy, go down to that old man's house and he was telling me of the pirates and of the invaders that only he could see and the neverbugs and everything else. Like, what if I was the lunatic because I was the one who was still buying into the Matrix? I'm the one who still fully believes that everything is what it is in front of your eyes and it's nothing different. Like, he's the one who's got a glitch in the code and is able to see the breaks and things like, oh, by the way, I'm existing at this time and also back when river pirates existed.
he has a different glitch running.
He downloaded a different DLC package.
Yeah, like when you're in a video game and like a different level starts glitching into what you have. He's like, I'm telling you, man, it's there. The pirate level is there.
Hey, I'll tell you, I mean, if you grew up in the rural South, and you went to public school, especially in the 90s, whenever I went to elementary school, you opened up that science book and you saw, well, not science, history book. You'd open up that history book and you'd see back when the pharaohs were white. So,
yeah.
so
Well, I
it's
mean,
like, wait, what was it? What was it?
Well, see, he was just remembering back to, the late 90s, early 2000s, where here in the South, we still had to fight river pirates on the way to school. So he was just kind of back a little bit.
And go uphill both ways,
Yeah.
5 miles to school.
I mean, I remember when we got the first Walmarts in town, and then when we got electricity everywhere, White County was a very backwards place.
Oh, it was slow. Like, you don't even know. We had a Walmart. I don't say this in the
like
means...
a regular one, not a superstore.
I don't mean this in the means of a superstore. There was no market available. There was a clothing section. There was a shoe section. There was a jewelry section. There was, your sporting goods.
Dude,
and
I don't think there was a jewelry section.
there was a jewelry section.
It
I know.
must have been very small because I do not remember it.
I absolutely remember it because in 7th grade I had worked a few little side jobs, mowing some yards and stuff like that, and I collected some money, and I was a lazy man. Lazy man. I mean, I'm talking lazy kid, lazy man. It's been great. But it's one of those things like that I never knew it was a part of my ADHD. And that would like force my brain to focus on everything other than what the task was that I was supposed to be doing. So, lazy was actually just, wrongfully stimulated kind of thing, like not stimulated towards the right thing. So brain brain would be like, I would rather, and no maturity and recognition of this. Because if you were told in the 1990s that you had ADHD, you were cussing those parents. Like those parents did not take anything like that with just like
see, then it wasn't like easily accepted. It was one of those things like, now I'm going to say a word that is not polite to say, but it was how parents felt.
Oh yeah,
they're like, oh, you're saying my kid's a retard?
That's exactly what
it
it was.
That's what they took it as.
I heard actual
no.
parents saying that.
Yeah.
There was a kid in my class I was really close to growing up, and he was in my kindergarten class. When I say growing up, I mean we were friends since like young ages. Like always, he was always around. My parents were always hanging out with. And he ended up, like, the teachers were like, I think he's got ADHD, and the parents got so outraged they pulled him from public school for a little while.
Really?
Well, I remember at one point there was a time when I went to a school outside of White County. It was a school in Putnam County, and there was a child named Jason, and they basically had this big school-wide meeting, which, looking back, I feel like wasn't the greatest way to handle it. He had Tourette's syndrome. he didn't have the, like yelling profanity one, but he would just do some just peculiar things because his brain was wired differently. So they had this school-wide meeting with everybody to, hey, this kid's going to be starting with us. He's going to do some strange things, but that's because he's got, this thing you've never heard of. So let's just be cool and not make fun of him. And well, you know how children are. There's always the cruel ones. But I was actually friends with Jason.
Yeah,
the early times, Otto, back when Austin and I were kids, it was a very weird landscape to try to navigate.
Right. Well, because I actually got diagnosed with ADHD in first grade, so this was like 2001, 2002 around, and the way that it was treated for me was, oh, this just means that you'll have to work harder to concentrate. It wasn't taken seriously as like an actual like mental disorder or mental illness. So it was the opposite thing of like, oh no, you're not different. You just have to work harder. And I'm like, no, I think my brain just doesn't work like everyone else's does.
So basically they said, you're just stupid.
Well, like,
I mean, that's what that means. You have to work
I
harder.
literally had the guy said he's not dumb. His IQ is like high, but he just can't focus. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll take that as a compliment. But yeah, like my parents were just like, no, you just have to work harder at concentrating. I'm like, I don't think that's how that works. My brain doesn't do it right.
And it's almost like a little bit of a glitch in everything too. Whenever you're feeling this way as a kid, especially when we grew up in the '90s, it was a weird time for all of that because. The way that my brain would operate, and I always paint this picture for people, is I have a constant cyclone full of everything I've ever logged in my brain spinning in front of I was in front of it. Like I'm standing in front of this cyclone and spewing everything that's happening in this cyclone of information in front of me. That was me as a child. Mm-hmm. As I've gotten older, the more that I've learned about myself and the more that I've and learned how to focus in, I still have that same damn cyclone, but I have a viewing port.
Yeah.
So I can take glimpses into things and I can actually pull things and log things, but if I ever get to rambling and going and the brain is just rolling with it, man.
And that's why you have a podcast.
That would make me wholeheartedly fall into a deep dive into the simulation hypothesis. By the way, in case somebody doesn't know what that means, is the simulation hypothesis proposes that what humans experience as a world is actually just simulated reality. Mm-hmm. Such as...
Like The Matrix.
Like The Matrix, a computer simulation in which humans themselves, we are the constructs. Much debate has happened over this topic, ranging from philosophical discourse to practical applications in computing. Oddly enough, here in recent times, there have been astrophysicists to come out and talk about simulation theory and how it upsets them to think about it. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson, as much of a cocky prick as he is, well, I don't know him, but... he
definitely is. Based on all the videos.
As much as the videos interpret him as that, he is intelligent. He's one of the smartest people that are out there.
He's a smart guy.
Now, here's the problem, though. He doesn't like really talking about it too much because he says, it's more than a 50% chance.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because Scientific American, which is, I guess, like website, former magazine of scientific repute.
I thought that was a new thing to put on your race.
I am Scientific American.
No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know about racialism or whatever.
Well, I don't know. Scientific American.
Yeah. I got derailed. See, my brain goes from a barren wasteland to the room of requirement when they're trying to hide things.
What do you got here?
Anyway, they said there's a 50% chance of that. I was just citing a source for your statement.
Right.
Okay.
There's a really good video on YouTube. After you get done listening, you should go check it out. It's called Simulated Reality by Lemino, and he goes into a lot of stuff like this. Like he goes even into like the early ones where it's like Plato's theory of the cave, where if you take five people, like since birth they've been in this cave, they're chained in a way that they can only look at a wall, and there's a path behind them with a fire, and then they start interpreting the shadows cast by people going on the walkway as reality. It's like, who's to say that that's not the reality, because like that's all you've ever known. Like, you can't see yourself, you can't see other people, you just hear the shadows talking and you think, oh, that's the people. And it's like, that could be our reality. Is it's all we've ever known, because that's how it is. Like, that's how we've always grown up in this reality. And it's really weird because it's hard to prove, because at the end of the day, it's like, what if it's part of the simulation that we find out it's a simulation, you know?
Well, I heard Elon Musk state this, and I kind of shared that opinion with him. He said, video games and things, they are simulated realities that we delve into, and we build these things that are more interesting versions of what we experience day to day. So we'll play like Skyrim and go fight dragons and shoot magic and things. He said, if we live in a simulation, can you imagine how boring the real world must be?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I kind of subscribe to that, because it's like, man, sometimes life be boring, yo.
Well, they have
It's like,
found...
did I get like the bad DLC package?
Right.
Because I know I got the House Hippo package. That's how I got Nola. I got the Screaming Eagles package. That's how I got the HHR. But where do I get that billionaire DLC? Or I'll just even settle for millionaire DLC.
No, those guys are pay to win.
Yeah, or maybe even thousandaire DLC.
Well, that's the
Where's the DLC where I've got money?
Well, that's the problem with a lot of the DLCs that are out there for this simulation, is a lot of times you just randomly inherit those whenever you're born. So it's almost like a Isekai anime, wherever they're getting reborn into another world. It's almost like a dice roll every time when they're reborn, because it's like, oh, well, in this world, what's it going to be like? Am I going to wake up? Am I going to be the son of a king and I get to inherit his throne? But, oh, there's conflict in the region, but my magic is inherently strong because I'm royalty? Or is it going to be one of those, like, they are born in the middle of the woods to a dirt family?
But they're always, no matter which Isekai anime it is, they always get the every woman is attracted to me one.
Where do I get that DLC to?
That is a weird DLC that they have in those Isekai.
Every single
I
one.
just want the DLC where I have one lady attracted to me. I don't need more than one. I'm not greedy.
I'm sure she is, but you gotta love Burger King.
Look,
You know who you
that
are.
lady is
You know you
okay.
listen. She's one of our German listeners. She's actually using an IP blocker.
She is not one of them that listens, but some of the other ladies that work there do listen. And that lady is way too high of a level, i.e. age, for me. It's weird, and I don't like it, and sometimes it scares me.
At least she's sweet to you.
She is very sweet. I will say that. She is very nice to me, but it's just creepy, overly nice.
Because I run into nice older ladies all the time, but also the flip side of that is when old ladies are not nice, it wrecks my soul. Because I think of like older women like in that age range from like 70, 75 on up like that. I think of like that like my mom's age, because that's how old my mom is. And my mom's a sweet lady. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's not the sweet lady right there too. I'm like, oh God, oh God, oh God. Like, you got to get...
She angry.
What did she flip Karen?
Because one of my main sources of income is DJing weddings. So when you go run into some mega mode Karen is going to be whenever you go to a wedding and the mom is displeased with something.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I have a little bit of experience with something like that. Yeah, just
you know what I'm saying?
Just
Like,
a little bit of firsthand knowledge of that.
Sometimes mom can kind of wreck it all. But hey, I am good at management as much as possible, so I do my best to kind of go along with stuff, and it just kind of like I talk it out. Let's use some of these hostage negotiation skills that you learn once upon a time. Like, okay, honestly, it works. But
carry an emergency chocolate bar.
no, but
You should probably add that to your bag. Bag of equipment.
I should add an emergency chocolate bar, but it's not just chocolate in the bar. They should
Right.
have some fungus in there, so all of a sudden, like, here, just have one of these squares and just talk to me in 25 minutes. I don't like... okay, fine. Then they come back, this is the most wonderful day.
Unless
How about how beautiful my daughter looks?
they have a bad trip, and then it's just like 3 times worse. Like when you get that clip. Yeah, because like it's like a weakness in their like character build. They have a weakness to poison, so instead of getting the good fun times, they get the monster times.
Honestly, though, speaking on the fungus inside of chocolate bars, I think that is something too that within our scope of vision, like we can only see X amount of the color spectrum, and a lot of people that will ingest mushrooms will talk about the different colors and the different things that they'll be able to see and the different like patterns that they're able to point out and stuff. It's all just your brain on a hallucinogen, but there is certain scientific research to put behind there's more to the visual spectrum than what we're capable of comprehending or seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't entirely think that means that the world looks like what the world looks like when you're on mushrooms. But it is one of those things to where it's I don't know. It's kind of like a glimpse into it. I don't know. Like you can see a little bit extra of that spectrum, and like just what does our world look like?
Right,
Dude,
because
I've done just standard gardening and seen in fractals. Okay, so
yeah, I have had my frame rate drop before whenever I've ingested too much of the good stuff. But I have heard there's I think it's DMT. I've heard that there are several. It may be a different one. But
No, you're speaking right. Continue.
It's one of those like heavy psychedelics.
Yeah, it's what your body produces upon death.
Apparently, there is on the Reddit for it, or in other like social circles on the internet, there are several people that have not talked before that have similar experiences of seeing elves that travel through like dimensions in space and like these insect creatures. And it's one of those like they've not talked about it before, but they all have the same experience. So maybe it lets you see past the veil a little bit, A
lot of what they refer to that as people that do DMT will experience a collective consciousness.
Yes.
To what they have no connection whatsoever with each other and have no idea of what each other has gone through in life or this or that, but they've done this specific psychedelic and then they have experienced this exact same vision down to descriptors and everything else. Yes, it could be influenced by each other. Yes, it's the age of the internet because people can get on there and just look up stuff and lie to your face, but Joe Rogan said.
Because that meatball never lies.
A paragon of scientific research.
Hey, if the person he's interviewing is,
Look,
tell me I'm wrong.
That's a topic
tell me I'm
not
wrong.
wanting to.
Tell me I'm wrong.
That's a long road.
Just to tell me I'm wrong.
I'm not saying that you're wrong.
That's all I needed to hear.
100%.
That's all I needed to hear, and I'm glad you said it. I just think that the idea of us being within a simulation is, it's kind of one of those things like it's uncomfortable because just imagine that all of these actions and all this free will and everything else that you think that you have, it's all because they've programmed you this way. Like
right.
Whoever the they is, who's the they even supposed to be?
Well,
some
also,
cosmic being somewhere, like off the very last scene of Men in Black, to where they're like, and sometimes even a galaxy can be as small as a marble. It's like there you got the aliens at the very end of Men in Black playing marbles with all the galaxies. Mm-hmm. Like it's just one of those things. Like just how insignificant are we in the grand scheme of it all? Like what is are there parallel dimensions? Are they ran by different beings? Are we in a simulation? Is this controlled by somebody? Like why would you? It's a can of worms, man.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
And also we don't know when it started. For all we know, the simulation just started and we've been programmed with all this backlog of information that we have.
It's only ran for the length of our lives and not before. All that's just
not even that.
lore.
Like right now, it started, and our characters' backgrounds, all our past is filled in as like, oh, this is what you are, and someone just hit play on the Sims.
I like to think that our childhood was the introductory part of the game.
It was a free level tutorial.
Yeah. That's when I was pooping myself, man. We're in it a little ways.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. But like, if what the simulation theorists say is true, then the world itself, upon creation, from creation, was a part of the algorithm. Was a part of what the simulation was, because they had to take this world and its world building. What do? You start with base form, and then you have to develop things over a little while, and then those things are leveled up, and then you got to do this. Oh, there's catastrophe though. Oh, what do I do? Oh, it's all restarted. That's happened on Earth like 6 times, scientifically speaking, as far as like bacteria start to grow, organisms start to grow, plant life starts to grow, total extinction. bacteria starts to grow, plants start to grow.
Well, that also depends on what side of the track you fall, because some people have different beliefs than that.
Oh, I understand, but
You know.
I mean, I'm just going along with the idea of painting a picture of what the simulation would be having to do.
Right.
And the idea that it could very well be that way, because I mean, I once upon a time was watching somebody play a video game, and all they were doing was simply traveling to a destination. And it took them maybe 15, 20 minutes. It felt like an eternity.
Oh, Starfield?
It was Starfield. It was.
Yep.
And they were traveling, and then all of a sudden they're like, I finally reached my destination, and here's what we're going to do. And then their ship exploded.
That was Star Citizen. And that was me. I was traveling, and then I crashed.
Oh,
and
that-
had to begin the journey anew.
Oh, I have a similar thing. So, Lego Fortnite came out. It's basically Minecraft, but in Fortnite and Lego. Me and my friend started to play, and for some reason, it spawned me in his world a literal 1.5 hour walk away from each other. We decided to meet in the middle. It took us about 45 minutes.
I love Diamond Rio.
About another 20 minutes of building an airship, because we built a little platform with some rocket engines and a balloon. And we started flying. We were doing great progress. We hit a mountain. We were moving around the mountain. He died. We were inside, like, it was like 10 minutes till I could get to his camp. And then I got attacked by 3 wolves and died, and got spawned all the way back at my original starting point on the other side of the world. We literally, like, over chat, I was just like, hey, I'm done. Like, I can't do this again.
anymore.
We have spent 2 hours in this game, and I haven't even got to your base yet. I can't. I have to log off and go sit down and cry in a room for a little bit.
Well, look, see, I got you one that's even worse, but to me it's hilarious. So, in the beginnings of Star Citizen, like, it's still in an alpha phase, but we're talking like 2 or 3
It's like in its
renditions
4th alpha.
ago. Yeah, like, I want to say it was like version 2 or something. Like, it was beginning times. We spawned on different planets, me and 3 friends, and it took me and one friend about 45 minutes to an hour to meet up on one planet, and then we went to go get the 3rd friend, okay? And the whole time, the 3rd friend is flying to the meeting point, because it was on the very, like, butt-end side of the galaxy. So we meet up after, like, an hour and a half, and we're going to this one particular planet, because then we can set our spawn point there, so we have a central location to gather. Well, the one who was the farthest away opens one of the side doors of the ship and is shooting his gun out of the door for no reason.
As you do, as an American, it's your right.
Yeah, and then so I started doing that. And then I got this really fun idea, because one of my guns I had on me was a shotgun. And so I, into my microphone, said, "No, Mom, Yeller's my dog. I'll do it." And then I shot Grant in the face and killed him. And so he went 2 hours back in time, and he rage quit, and I don't think he's played the game since.
I wouldn't either.
I laughed to the point that I almost peed myself because of how mad he was.
Oh, that's funny.
Everyone except for him thought it was hilarious.
You talk about frustration, man. That would suck, dude.
Yeah, he was like, "What the F, man? Why'd you do that?" I'm like, "It was funny, though." And he's like, "No, but kinda."
That's just what you do. Whenever me and my friend played Call of Duty for the first time, we played hardcore, and I was like, wait a minute, there's... Like, it literally... Like, in my head, it was like, wait a minute, you can team kill in this mode. It took us all of 0.5 seconds of starting in for me to turn around and put my double-barrel shotgun up his nose and pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And we literally both got kicked because we just started killing each other. Because it's like, you cut me off this last time. You stole my kill. I'm going to end you.
Yeah.
It was just all that gamer rage just taken out on each other. It was great. So that's the fun part of doing games with your friends. See, but you can't do that in real life or in the simulation life, because they patched that out, you know?
Yeah, they definitely did.
Well, but here's the reason why I go back to that world building phase and stuff, because the idea of everything in front of you not appearing, you know, not being as it seems. Now, everything is not as simple as it appears. And they've been talking about this all the way back to, like, the Mayas, all the way back to ancient Japan, all the way back to the Aztec. Like, they would all talk about these experiences and these things that they would be going. Let's see. For example, they had a poem by Zhuangzi from ancient China, called The Butterfly Dream. It talked about different things as well. I mean, back to Greek philosophers, they would talk about it. I mean, all these things talking about, how what the world is in front of you isn't exactly what it is. But a lot of people, too, they did that for different reasons, just because they had different explanations for it. Like, it was like some kind of great spirit, or it was the work of the devil, or it was this and that. Like, it was just different things that they would all have, trying to have their own explanations for. But I think at this point in time, like, our comprehension of computer technology and our comprehension of, like the astrophysicists that are receiving code from deep space that is... they're trying to receive data, and they're just pulling things from deep space, and it's coming in as binary code. Mm-hmm. Like, we didn't create that. Like, we didn't make that. Why is binary code coming in?
Right. And also, there is a theory talking about space that there's a theory that once a civilization reaches a certain point, they stop looking outward and decide to look inward. It's like potentially like they decide to boot up everyone's consciousness into computers. So there aren't people aren't being born on the planet. Everyone's just in a consciousness like computer framework.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what happened to us. Maybe like humanity has been longer than it is, and like we've lived so long in this consciousness framework that we've forgotten where we were. It's like there's a Doctor Who episode where these people are like, we've been fighting these people for hundreds of years, thousands of years, generations have been lost. And what actually happens, they've only been fighting for about 2 years, but they have cloned so many generations that they've lost the idea of what they were, like they've lost the time scale, because to them hundreds of generations have died. But in reality, it's like, you've been fighting for 2 years, you just keep cloning and cloning and cloning and cloning.
Well, in modern philosophy, Nick Bostrom, he wrote a paper entitled "Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?" He went into detail about the simulation hypothesis, and inside that paper he presented a trilemma, and he argues that at least one of those propositions have to be true. And the three propositions are: number one, the human species is very likely to go extinct before reaching a post-human age. Number two, any post-human civilization is unlikely to run a significant number of simulations of its evolutionary history or variations thereof. And number three is we are almost certainly living in a computer simulation.
And I mean, what if?
I mean, like one of those is like, either we're in a simulation or we'll die before we hit a simulation, or we won't run a simulation.
What he's saying is one of those things has to be true.
Well, yeah,
that's what he's saying. Not all three.
Right.
One of them.
Like, okay, so think about it this way. Think about it as like if they're starting from the beginning. And now we're here. Think about it this way.
Start from the bottom.
Yeah, so. You've got your most, like, think back to the most ancient civilizations that there were, and that was like all the way back to like Mesopotamia,
the Machapahet.
And think about it.
Bless you.
They had deities. What if, as in like starting a D&D campaign, they had these DM rolled characters, these DM side characters that they would shove into the story that were actually the gods.
Well, our DM fucking sucks then.
I mean, it's
he's an asshole.
Well, it's just one of those like, okay, we're going to guide this new civilization. We're going to show them the ways to do stuff, and then we're going to French off into the universe. Like, that's kind of what it always seems in these ancient civilizations. It's always like, these are the foundations of our beliefs. These are the foundations of everything that has developed the world around us.
So are you saying that like the pantheon of deities are the ones actually playing the simulation, and that when we see or interact with them, that's when we see like the fringe of the Matrix?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Which I don't think I haven't actually dove ankle deep into it. Like by ankle deep I mean like just foot first. Just
Googled
plunged.
it.
I haven't plunged that deep into the simulation hypothesis because it's within itself as an explanation. It's basically just like we're in a computer simulation.
Yeah.
Like and also if you search simulation theory, that is actually an album by the Muse. So you can listen to that as well. That's a pretty good album.
That kind of, there's a meme I saw, and I'll see if I can dig it up and post it on the socials. It was talking about how this group was playing D&D, and there was like literally nothing in this room. Like it was just a room, and the players wouldn't leave it alone. They kept rolling perception checks, and one time this player rolled a nat 20. The DM's like, for a split second, you see you're surrounded by 4 giants with giant dice and paper in front of you, and then you go back in. And it's like, you just broke that one character's brain. They just saw through the veil.
Yeah, it's kind of, that would cause a lot of discord inside of that character. There's a link in their description. Live, uncut, uncensored, and irrevocably uncircumcised. Circumcised.
Uncircumcised?
Both.
Don't make it grow back.
Both. Dude,
Do you think...
I feel like if it didn't grow back, it'd make a popping sound.
Do you think Deadpool grew back his foreskin whenever
No,
he went back?
because he could only heal to the point that his body received the powers. That's why
Right.
he still has turbo cancer.
So how many times do you think they circumcised Wolverine before they figured out that he could regrow?
You have to... Well, first you have to think of how old he was.
Yeah, but they were
Because he
circumcising
can-
people back in the Noah times.
I mean, that's true, but like how prevalent was it in colonial United States? Because he fought in the American Civil War, which also leads you to believe that he was here way before, canonically. So at what point did circumcision become popular in the U.S. and
That
done
sounds
in
like
a way that was safe?
You know, we have a Google machine. Should I put this on my Google?
Go ahead, put it in your algorithm.
Okay.
And while you're doing that, I'll talk about the physics behind some of this simulation theory. In physics, the view of the universe and its workings as the ebb and flow of information was first observed by Wheeler. That was actually somebody that was from, I just looked it up, dagnabbit, from Boston.
Honda.
From Boston, a quantum physics
I was
guy
thinking
from Boston.
four-wheeler.
Yeah. He had first observed it and talked about it, and there were 2 views that emerged from what he had talked about. The first view was for the purposes of the universe is basically a quantum computer. Quantum meaning, if you've ever researched into quantum mechanics or quantum physics or anything else like that, it's an overcalculated estimate of things. So within a certain amount of... You wouldn't be able to take leaps in technology if it wasn't for a leap of faith and belief that it was possible. So quantum is a possibility machine.
Right.
So that's all that is. Just to break it down, quantum meaning possibilities. So that was that the quantum computer was the universe, and the other one was for the proposed that the system performing the simulation is distinct from the simulation. So we might exist in a universe within a universe, as opposed to it just existing as the quantum computer, which kind of, to me, seems like they're just trying to say the same thing as the other person, except different, just so they stand out.
So Wolverine was born in 1832. His mutant powers awakened at the age of 13. So while circumcision...
So the circumcision would have stuck.
Yes. So circumcision gained popularity in the 1950s or 60s. So yes.
In Canada?
Well, that was America.
Wolverine was Canadian.
Right. But also, like, I think it was way outside
We're
the
saying
scope
North
of...
American.
Yeah.
but,
Either way, he was
he
born in
def-
1832.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been, though.
No.
He
No.
gr-
So Wolverine would not have been circumcised
He
because
wouldn't.
also it would have been like... It's like Deadpool rules.
Yeah. I'm glad we figured that out. That's why they come to us.
Exactly, that is. Well, some of the big counter arguments for the simulation theory are a lack of empirical evidence. The simulation hypothesis is based on a philosophical argument rather than empirical evidence. And critics argue that without any empirical evidence, it's impossible to prove or disprove the hypothesis.
Well, I have heard that they found that the universe does run at a set frame rate.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything does.
Right.
Isn't that weird, though?
And there's also circular reasoning. The simulation hypothesis often relies on circular reasoning, basically saying we live in a simulation because we live in a simulation. There's also the anthropic principle. The simulation hypothesis often relies on the anthropic principle, which states that the universe must be compatible with the existence of intelligent life because we exist. Critics argue that this principle is not a valid scientific principle It is based on subjective reasoning.
So it is what it is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
And basically, Occam's razor is the last one, which is the simplest explanation. So it
Right.
doesn't exist because that overcomplicates the matter.
Well, then also, again, you get in that loop of like, okay, you find out it's a simulation. What you going to do about it?
Right. It's like, just play to the end. That's all you can do.
I mean,
But hold on. Wouldn't that kind of lead credence to afterlife? Like, like the idea of heaven, like...
I mean, do your
Where-
Sims have an afterlife?
Well, no, hold on. Like, we come out of here, out of this simulation, into the afterlife where we realize, oh, I was really this person playing this game for like 90 years, and now I don't know, do whatever afterlife people do.
or it could be like many of those animes. You've experienced that life, you die, and you're in another world. Rebooted as another character. Do you regain your consciousness, though? That's the big one.
Well, I mean, it's like, how many layers of simulation are there? Are we really just a big ogre? Because ogres are onions.
Well, yeah. I mean, are
And,
we
like, each simulation is a layer that's peeled back from the onion, revealing another simulation,
'Cause,
and
I mean-
another simulation, and another simulation,
and another
and
refrain,
another simulation,
and another refrain,
and another simulation.
It wouldn't
and
end.
another simulation.
'Cause
and
also,
another
like,
simulation.
Who would say
and
that the
another
people that are running our simulation aren't also in a simulation?
Exactly.
I mean, like, yeah, it's one of those, like, it could just all be part of the simulation that we find out we're in the simulation.
And
Well,
what
I
if,
think if I am in a simulation and somebody is playing me as their character, they're not trying to win the game. I think that they're just trying to do
Fuck
everything
around.
to not win the game.
Well, it's like those monks that go and do the same repetitive thing over and over and over to the point to where they achieve enlightenment. And
That just means they're NPCs.
but
They're stuck in a loop.
I think that might be a way of game breaking. Like, because you're designed to keep doing all this other stuff. You got like possibilities, all this and all that, and all they're doing is trying to focus their time and their mental state and everything into achieving enlightenment. Well, what if enlightenment was actually just getting a glimpse at those three nerds sitting in the microphones?
Kind of like you jump down a hole and there's a 23% chance that the game glitches and takes you to another level. So you keep jumping in the hole until you hit that magic percentage. Is that what you're
Yep.
kind of equating what they're doing to?
Yep, because I mean they're going and they're I mean there's several spots in these I forget which monasteries they are, but the monks have prayed in the same spots for so long that they've worn grooves into the ground to where they've gone to the same spot every day for so long and prayed and meditated and it's just. It's a dedication to that. I don't have that kind of dedication to doing
Dude,
something like that.
There's some Shaolin temples where they do different training exercises, like crawling up and down these stairs on their knuckles. That there's knuckle indents. So I mean, it could be any of them.
I mean, that's just... but just the idea that somebody's dedicated that much time into achieving a higher state of being. What if they're just shooting for that, that enlightenment, and all it is just a glimpse behind the veil? And what do you do after you know this? Oh, I'm going to keep doing it some more so I might get a glimpse again. And this time, ask some more questions. What else happens? And what else happens whenever I break the fourth wall and talk to the man god that's, running the simulation?
I have found a table that shows the timeline of the simulation hypothesis.
Okay,
Pretty interesting.
you tell me.
So, time period in ancient times, Plato's allegory of the cave. We've already talked about that.
Is it a mahogany table?
Yes.
Is it oak?
It looks...
Pine?
I'm going to say
Birch?
it's more like a birch or balsa wood based on the coloration.
Koa?
I said birch or balsa.
Oh, so
Mahogany?
birch or balsa? Okay,
Yeah.
I can stop myself. Okay.
Yep. 17th century, you have the Cartesian skepticism, which Rene Descartes' philosophy of doubt raises questions about the reliability of sensory perceptions and the nature of reality. In the 20th century, we have the brain in a vat thought experiment, which is philosophical thought experiment proposing that an individual's perceptions could be artificially manipulated akin to a simulation. In 74, you have Robert Nozick's Anarchy, State, and Utopia. In 1999, the Matrix films. In 03, you have Nick Bostrom's paper. 2016, you have Elon Musk's remarks. 2020, there was an Oxford study. which at the conclusion said that we have about a 50% possibility of being in one.
How crazy would that be, though, that you're one of the skeptics that are trying to get in there and disprove what's going on, and then you can't disprove it? That would freak me the hell out.
And then some place like Oxford, who's one of the most, I'm not going to say critically acclaimed, but known for, having a lot of
Prestige.
Thank you. One of the most prestigious institutes of learning
Yet something
in
else
the world says, "Oh yeah, there's a 50% chance this is just a simulation."
You
Right,
also, you also prestige in video games. How funny is that?
It's true.
I just had a brain
Gasm?
something like that.
It's called an
what
epiphany.
if the Mandela effect is just like you're running on an old patch, like they patch something up,
Oh man!
and then like you're like brain's like, oh no, it's like that. It's like whenever you're playing a video game and like they patch something out on the map, you still think it's there because that's what you started on.
Well, it's kind of one of those things that the whole idea of parallel dimensions fits into simulation theory.
Yeah, and why
So,
wouldn't
I
it?
mean-
Because if there's one try on it, that's not the only try. Like, you don't have a video game out and there's only just that video game. You've got everybody else's take on the video game. You've got
How many
everybody
Skyrim characters have you made?
enough.
So-
I stopped counting because I forget. The last one was just a French off. I do whatever I want to character. So I just made him an OP anime character.
So does that mean like once you hit about 30, that's when the free tutorial goes away and then like the real game starts?
I thought that was like
Because-
18.
I don't know, man, because of 30, like my butthole didn't work right for a year or two. Like I crapped myself more times in the first couple years of my 30s than I have before or since.
Hey, it is just something that everybody has to learn, male and female included.
Maybe I didn't level that skill up enough in my tree up to level 30, and then I got too powerful everywhere else, and that was the one weak spot.
Well, that's something that nobody ever told us in the character tree that you had to actually like.
Anal retention.
Yeah,
Like,
can
who
I
knew?
respect my character?
You're just because it was in the fine print of the fortitude. Like you're like, I've got enough of this, I got enough of that. Fortitude's secondary. I don't got to worry about that, but it controls your sphincter. So male and female alike. Actually, one of our listeners, I'm not going to say her name, but she shit her pants. And she told my wife very quickly about it because of how awful I made warnings. Warning upon warning. Hey, it's not right once you hit 30. And then, 30 steadily approaches, and then all of a sudden you're crapping your pants.
So she lost the game.
She might have. She might have for sure. I don't think that, I don't really know how one would really win the simulation, but at the same time, I don't think that simulations are made for winning.
Maybe, hold on. Maybe,
Oh, God.
maybe when you die and come back, that's when you shit yourself. Maybe that's how you die, and then you come back after that.
Oh, that's
Well,
the only sign we
Like,
get.
that's the sign that you get that you have restarted.
Well,
is you just shit your pants.
I have
hate
heard
that.
that deja vu, some people think, is like when you get reloaded from your last save kind of thing.
Maybe.
Because I've had deja vu. I've had preemptive
Deja vu, hit a man in the face before.
I was thinking it. I might add that in post.
I've had like premonition dreams and things like that. But all it is just your recognition of things that happen around you a lot, and your brain constructing its own ideas as to what is a possibility, is what could happen. Because at the same time, our brains in a dream state are slightly, and when I say slightly, I mean ever so slightly, dosed with DMT. Mm-hmm. And when you're in that deep dream state, your brain is a quantum computer. Like, basically, if you have a recognition of the fact that you are asleep, like, the possibilities of what can happen are to the limit of what you can think.
So speaking a little bit of that, I had a reverse lucid dream earlier. So I took my wife to work. She had to be at work.
A dream where you control nothing?
Well, like I could tell that I was dreaming, but I couldn't do anything about it. So
Oh, that's called a nightmare, bud?
took the wife to work. And
In
I
the
was
dream?
like, no.
Oh.
She had to be at work at like 6 a.m. So I went back to bed because I didn't have to be at pod till 11. So didn't have to be here till about 11:20.
That's auto time. In case
It's
That is
auto time,
auto
baby.
time.
He's the same as my Aunt Pam. We tell her that something starts at 1 when it starts at 2.
Right. But I literally was having a dream where I was like, I know I'm dreaming. I just need to like wake up, but I couldn't do that. And it wasn't like I was scared. I was more pissed off. I was like, God damn it. I want to be awake right now because I know this dream is BS and a dumb dream. I just want to like wake up and restart this thing, but I couldn't.
You're like, this is lame.
Well, you know, I was
loading a different video.
Yeah, it was one of those where I'm like, I think I know where this is going. Because it was also like I was dreaming that I was laying in my bed, and then I was just also laying in my bed in the same position.
How can... So basically you dreamt a boring dream, but knew it was boring.
Yeah, like there were some things that...
yourself.
There were some things that were different, like... There were certain people that were there that I know are not in my house, or certain things going on that I was like, I know this isn't like actually going on, and my room doesn't quite look like this. And then I was like, I just want to wake up and like get off this ride.
Well, see, I've had one lucid dream before, okay? And I did the stupidest thing because I've heard like in your dreams, one way to tell that you're dreaming is you attempt to read something and it just doesn't compute.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't actually see words on paper. So... The one time that I realized I was dreaming, I picked up a book and attempted to read it, realized I couldn't read it, and I went, oh, shit, yeah, I'm dreaming. And then I woke myself up because I got too excited.
That's kind of how mine work. Every time I realize I'm lucid dreaming, the dream starts to fall apart, and it just gets normal.
Yeah, I had to stop because I used to do it on the regular just as like fun, as an escape. Like whenever I would sleep, like most of the time my brain would either, trigger a dream, or I would be just kind of doing whatever in my dreams. And it got to the point to where I kind of started believing in astral projection for a little while, just because I came in touch with something kind of dark in that in the entity inside of my dreams. Like, as I'm fully aware that my dreams are happening and fully aware of my capabilities inside of my dreams, all of a sudden I'm in this dimension, and I can tell it's a dimension. It's like I'm pulled into something else, and it's like my old house that I grew up in as a child, and I can remember like all these details are correct, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And then the darkness that is with like my childhood bedroom is in front of me, and like this darkness is just all I can see in there. There's no light.
I was going to make a really weird like masturbation joke, and then you said child bedroom, and I went, nope, can't do that.
No, it's not there for that. But basically, like, this darkness was there, and I was like drastically aware of how dark that bedroom was because nothing else was that way. It was like a vivid memory except for that one bedroom. And within that bedroom, like, this darkness I kept feeling like I was heavy in one direction of my body, like almost like a pull, like a gravitational pull. And I started getting like worried about it. I'm like, what's going on? So in my dreams, I am in control whenever I'm in that state. So I just like, okay, I'm being pulled. This is aggravating. So I take my fist and I shove it through the floor, and I grab a hold of the floorboards and I hold on to them, and it starts ripping the floorboards up and pulling me harder. And for some reason in my dream, I started reciting the Lord's Prayer because I felt it was like a dark entity or something like that. And a voice echoed from inside of the darkness that screamed at me. It sounded like a mixture of a lion's roar mixed in with like a deep guttural voice that said, "They're only words unless you mean them." And then I woke up in a cold sweat.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, bud, no more walking out into the never.
I think an admin pulled you aside and said, "Hey, bud,
you're
about to be banned."
Yeah, that was a Facebook warning that you've shared too many pictures of your buddies photoshopped onto short girls. Nobody in particular I'm talking about there, but yeah, that's just the simulation theory or simulation hypothesis is something that is a little bit easier to understand at this point if you watch the movie The Matrix. But the idea that a lot of people can't disprove that that's what's going on, even though our best scientific minds, in quotations, because I don't know 100%. I'm just quoting myself on that. They're stating this. They're stating like, well, it could be just as much as it can't be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, the crazy thing about it is you don't know what else is going on behind the simulation, like what is going on there. Just like you don't know what's going on behind the episode if you're not subscribed to our Patreon.
Very true.
Give us $5. You get to hear some extra stuff. You get before the squeeze, after the squeeze, uncut episodes a day early. I mean,
Things parallel to the squeeze that have nothing to do about the squeeze,
right? And
like
we're
the animal thing.
And that is the additional level of Patreon. That's $10. That you'll get additional content. We're going to start doing extra episodes for you
we
guys.
promise.
We gave them that. We got one that's out there for them. That's an extra episode. It's just stuff that we'll be doing for you guys. You're going to get some video content eventually once we get this video thing nailed down. You know, technology. It's a lot like food. You know, not everybody gets it.
Yeah.
So it's.
And also, we're not like the big podcasts that have a whole crew and team behind us. We have Tiny's phone.
Yep.
And it's trying. It's doing its best.
It's myself.
Hi.
It's recording as hard as it can record.
It is doing its best, and I bet you that thing is 7,000 degrees sitting up there right now.
Well,
'Cause
it's not plugged in, so maybe it won't be as hot.
We also
But it could also be just have been dead for the last 20 minutes.
yeah, because the screen is not facing us. We don't know if it's still
no
working.
idea.
No, we just trying stuff. We trying to make it work.
We're tryhards because we try hard.
We do try hard. We're trying to make it work. I mean, and it's and hey, guess what? That's why we're an indie podcast. Because if we weren't an indie podcast, we'd probably already be famous and have a crew. You know how many? Hey, if you're on the crew of Nerded Through the Grapevine, go ahead and state your name from behind the scenes here. I'm Shazam.
I'm Otto.
Okay, yeah, we got it covered. So,
Oh, and we have AC.
oh yeah, well, AC,
He's a new guy.
He temporarily.
His name is Alpha Charles.
Yeah, well, he's actually JC's brother from NSYNC. So he's a lot cooler than him, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I'm really actually impressed with how well this air conditioner is
Oh, yeah,
done.
it feels good.
Because that's on low mode, and I bumped it up to where it wasn't like 62 degrees coming out of it because Otto was being a little bitch.
Because it was blasting directly at me. Literally, it was pointed at the side of my head, and it felt like have you ever been in one of those colds where like the wind hurts? Like it was hurting because
No,
it was.
I'm not.
It was like a foot and a half from my head, just blasting the side of my head.
I'm sorry. Whenever I sat in that seat, whenever I was hanging out just in here checking out the air conditioner, it just reminded me of being in a motel room on like you going to the beach and you get to run that AC however strong you want to because you don't pay the bill. Well, that's kind of what I feel like with this electric air conditioner I've got in here. Like I know that it's going to jack the bill up from using it X amount of times, but I only use it when I use this room.
Right.
So it's not going to be that crazy. So what am I going to do? I'm going to treat it like the motel. I'm going to put that bitch at 62 degrees. I'm going to run it until the wheels fall off of it because here's the best thing about that too. Like here's something that most air conditioners don't even have that are like in commercial, like these cheap motels that I would even have one of those room controls like that where I'd go and like turn a dial or push a button over next to the wall. Like this thing has an auto defrost. So what it does is it senses the inside of itself. It says, I'm getting too cold from running too cold. It shuts off for a few minutes, and it thaws itself, and it says, okay, I'm ready to work again, and it goes back. But
and then slowly dethaws itself.
Yes. It is
Also known as freezes.
Yeah, that's the process. But at the same time, I for an Amazon find of 200 doll hairs.
You can't beat that.
Now I was so happy about that. I was going to Lowe's looking for similar kind of stuff, and yeah, they've got them Lowe's them brands with names and stuff. But I'm like, God, am I paying an extra $200 for a name?
Yeah, not to mention the window units. They're kind of garbo.
And also,
like they work, but it's. Now I'm committed to making a point of entry for thieves.
Yeah, because with this, I mean, it opens up your window, I think it's like less, maybe like 4 inches, and it sticks the exhaust tube and everything out, and everything's secured, and then I just nailed my window shut. Like, no problem. Nobody getting in. I'm not getting out if it's an emergency, but, you know.
Well, I mean, that's
you also
just
have a
bust
door.
it. Yeah, there is a door.
Yeah,
there is an
The doors
emergency
are
exit on the
better.
Strip Mall studio.
that's if somebody has blocked the exit to the back. That's the emergency. Like, am I getting out this window? I'll have to break
Okay,
it.
then you go to the front door.
Too many doors to go through. It's an emergency.
That's true.
This
you
is
do
a-
have an airlock
This is a-
entering your house.
This is a worst case scenario.
Whatever
of
you're doing
all.
with your legs, it's making my headphones go from the sides. It's weird.
I don't know.
It may
I don't
be.
know.
It may be
Maybe it's
mine
just
because
my
there's like 4
headphones
cords
dying.
around my feet.
All I know is something's happening, and it keeps moving to the left and back to the right.
Oh, that's.
I'm in center right now, so that's good.
Oh, you were just experiencing a glitch in the simulation.
Oh,
That's all that
okay,
it
okay,
was.
that makes
You were just
sense.
hearing the static in your own character. Pretty soon, we're gonna have little green diamonds popping above our head. We're gonna
Shibadi-babu. Kafu padida-ba.
Ganchi girl, Shingong girl. Shimbanguni girl, Shingaboni. There's actually a Sims version of Country Girl Shake It for me.
Yeah, there's also Katy Perry did a Simlish version of one of her songs.
One of the cooking channels on YouTube that I watch, he did a Simlish cooking, like took a recipe that was Simlish, made it in the real world, and then consumed it.
My favorite memes.
All while speaking gibberish.
One of my favorite memes are
Sims.
when people post something about The Sims and you don't realize it's about The Sims. I saw one. It's like, my children were taken by CPS. Can I adopt them back? And someone's like, wait, what the? Oh, you're talking about The Sims. You're talking about The Sims.
Yep. Well, I mean, you never know in the real world, too. You get people calling up and trying to do some shady DCS stuff when you're just working at a retail store. No, I can't sell you a drug passing kit so you can get the meth out your system so you can keep your kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't. Well, I mean, people will just tell you whatever whenever you work retail. They'll walk up to you and spew their entire life story.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I had a man one time come into a vape shop that I worked at previously, and he was very bedraggled.
Huh?
He was very unkempt.
Oh, okay.
He kind of smelled, okay, not kind of, but he a lot smelled like pee. And he told me that we were living in the end times, and the only way for me to get to heaven was I needed to go to the square, to the courthouse, and I had to let the zombies eat me.
And
I asked him, what time do I need to be there? Because that's the kind of person I am.
You gotta
tell
know.
me that kind of thing, I'm going to ask you questions because I just want to know.
yeah.
He said I had to be there by 5 o'clock because the ship was leaving at like 5:30. So at 5 o'clock, I'd have plenty of time to get there, be eaten, be saved, and then go to heaven where God lived.
That is, I mean, not shocking. I mean, hell, you've got, if people, and that's just that's like I don't want to say crazy, but that's somebody that's operating on a different patch than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I even drove by the courthouse around the time to see if he was going to be there.
And he wasn't.
Because that's the kind of person that I am.
That's unfortunate.
No, I think he might have reverted to a previous save or moved on to the next level. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I work in retail. I've been a cashier, and I've had people straight up tell me like, "Oh no, I can't get your credit card because my wife messed up my credit in our divorce," and just start going in their whole thing. I'm like, so do you want a text receipt or a paper receipt?
Right.
I'm not getting paid enough to care about your problems, and this is awkward.
And you want to not be a bad person and just be like, I don't care, please don't talk to me. But at the same time, like some of the stuff that people spew, like it's not even like any of your business. Like I'm here to sell you a product. Get out.
Also, they will ask you the most random stuff. I paint my nails fairly regularly. I just like having the color on there. I had someone straight up, I was sitting there doing the transaction. He's like, why are your nails painted? You from around here? Or are you from California? It's like, no, sir, I'm from Jackson County. He's like, what, are you gay or something? Just straight on.
As if it was any of his business.
I was taken aback.
Why? You interested?
If I was more like,
Right.
if he hadn't have just thrown a flashbang into my like brain, I would have been like, yeah, me and my husband met at the gun range and really just threw him off. But I was like, no, sir, I'm married to my wife. And like,
who's a man?
the rest of,
Just kidding.
the rest of the
She's actually a very
transaction,
nice lady.
yeah, she is. The rest of the transaction, he just kept trying to make jokes he's like, well, I mean, it's okay if you are. And I'm like, dude, I'm not. You're not repairing this interaction.
It's one of those things that you can't backpedal away from. I had a lady that this is evidence of simulation, I think, come into the vape sack yesterday. It was probably around 11 o'clock, so I'd been open about an hour, and I got her products she was wanting, her adult products, non-vibratory,
Good.
vape fluid.
I was wanting to make sure you cleared that up.
Yeah, I got vape fluid, but as she was pulling out her card, another adult product rolled out of her little clutch pocketbook wallety thing, I saw it out of the corner of my eye, but decided not to mention it because she snatched it and put it back in there. And I was going to be the nice guy and just not say anything. And she goes, "Oh God, I'm so embarrassed. I hope you didn't see that." I said, "No, I didn't see the little shiny silver thing." I'm like, "It's okay."
It's like,
And then I had to disinfect the counter after she left because
yeah, you don't.
I don't
wanna-
know if
Why
that
would you
was
carry that
clean.
on the go? Like, what are you?
Like I don't know. I don't ask questions about women sometimes because she was old enough to also be my grandmother.
Yeah, that's one of those don't
Well,
ask.
not grandmother, but definitely mother.
Like I'm not gonna ask. Please God, don't tell.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like let's just pretend this never happened, so I can proceed with the rest of my simulation, not having to deal with this glitch that I
Yeah.
just ran
Yeah, it's
into.
like just fade as an NPC. You don't need to be the vibrator lady because now I'll never forget what she looks like because she made mention of it.
Yeah,
if she hadn't have said anything, I would have just been like, whatever.
I had a guy come in reeking of weed. Like I was getting a contact high, and he was buying some pistol magazines. Like, okay, I need to see your ID. He's like, oh, let me go over here. I gotta look at my bag. And I'm like, dude, I know you have drugs in your bag. I can taste it. Like I can taste the drugs on you. And he did have his ID. He's like, hey man, like if I come back tomorrow, can you like set these aside? And I was like, yeah, I'll put them back here with your name on them.
Which
buddy.
also means no. This is a retail establishment.
and it
We don't
also
do
means
that.
he
there-
did-
he came back.
Yeah, he came back the next day because I worked the next day, and he came. He's like, "Hey, man, you still got my
Well,
magazines?"
but did you actually set him aside with his name on it?
Yeah, I did.
Well, that's good. I really
yeah.
worked out.
Usually, my rule in retail is if you're not an asshole, I will bend the rules for you because like technically we're not allowed to, and like we can only do a 24-hour hold. But if you're being a great guy, if you're being like working
Right.
with me, I'll go the extra mile. Now, if
yeah.
you're being an asshole, I will make sure I follow every policy, every rule, and may even make some of my own up.
Oh, yeah.
because you're being a dick.
Oh yeah, like charging a drunk tax. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you come into the vape sack and you're literally falling all the way through my store, loud, throwing your hands around and screaming across the vape shop, even though you're not mad, if you're that level of drunk, I will charge you more money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's called a drunk tax.
Well-
I'm sorry, not sorry.
Well,
Also, my boss will never know about it because he don't listen.
yeah, I doubt that he would have the time to dedicate to listening to us, considering he's got fishing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, why would it would be like
He puts in a solid 6 hours a week and then he goes fishing.
he's gonna kick your ass if you ever hear
I
this.
say that to his face. And look, I'm not saying that in a bad way. He owns the business. He's allowed to do that.
That's true.
But I also let him know that I know what he does.
Yeah, whenever I go in there, the only time I see him, he's sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
hey, Otto, I got a quick question.
Okay.
If you look across the room and there's a human-shaped figure that's body is made out of just binary code and it's walking towards you, and out of its binary code clenched fist, it opens up and it has 3 beautiful, shiny grapes.
Are they in binary?
What are you going to do?
I bend over and suck them up seductively while making eye contact with it.
It doesn't have any eyes, but I think that
I can find the zeros.
Close enough.
Jesus.
End of the episode.